Clionadh just released 9 new gorgeous multi-chromes, and I'm so excited to swatch them on my eyes today. Up until recently, most of Clionadh's launches were either really big and overwhelming, or they were a complete new line of shadows. So I love the fact that recently they've been releasing these 9 pan various formulas. The last one, which I swatched a couple months ago, had some absolute bangers in. I feel like they've been introducing more of like the multicolored sparkle into their shadows, and I absolutely love that. And looking at these shades in person, I'm so excited to dive into them. They look really beautiful and sparkly, and they're absolutely calling my name. Even the deeper purple one, which is probably one that I would have skipped if I was just purchasing these separately and just for myself and not for a video, it looks like it has pink sparkle in it too. It looks like it has like a brightness to it. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because it's going to be a little bit of a ways before we get to the deep purple. But the point is, I'm pumped. Okay, let's start with the 2 that are potentially inner corner shades. So although I will swatch these all over my eye, it's possible they won't be as impressive all over the eye as I will later find them to be in the inner corner. This first one is called Facet, and this is a Series 3 iridescent multichrome. I can't really tell what color it's going to be, possibly pink, actually. Which is cool, because actually I don't think I have a pink iridescent from Clionadh, and I love me a pink iridescent. I don't have any primer on my eye. Yeah, as I thought, not the most special all over the lid, but I do love the formula of their iridescence for my inner corner. I love iridescents that are more of like a glowy sparkle as opposed to like a big chunky flaky sparkle, but I am excited to finally have a pink inner corner option from them. This next one is Solarium, and this one is an electric multichrome. I was curious about that, but I said before that it might be an inner corner shade because the way it looks in the pan reminds me a lot of Fairy Fire, and I know a lot of different brands have a variation of this. Shine by SD has a shadow I can't remember the name of, even though I once owned it. Terra Moons has Lyra. So either way, I'll compare these later, but yeah, I'm curious if this is going to give me more of like an inner corner glow with a more subtle yellowiness. Ooh, that looks pretty. Oh, pretty. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this is exactly what I thought it would be. It's like Clionadh's version of something like Fairy Fire. I also love this type of shadow because if it does work on my inner corner, it's part of a very special subset of my iridescent collection where they're beautiful all over the lid and they're beautiful for my inner corner. Shadows like that I always end up traveling with more because they can do double duty, whereas shades like this, I won't be wearing this all over my lid again. But yeah, for this one, that yellow base is pretty subtle, and I'm seeing a ton of green sparkles, and it gives like a wet effect. Super pretty. Looking at these in other angles, they have beautiful sparkle to both of them. In some angles, I'm seeing a pink shift to Solarium, and I'm seeing a yellow golden shift to Facet. Okay, so next up we have a couple that are more in like the pink family. I'm really excited about this one. It just got really noisy outside. This is Entropy. It's a dimensional light multichrome. If I'm remembering correctly, I feel like the dimensional lights were all kind of like darker, grungier colors. This one's definitely like a more cool toned pink, a more like subdued pink, but a pink nonetheless. And I'm really excited for this one. This one feels a little bit more flaky when I pick it up. Oh. Oh, pretty. I like the shade of this. It definitely has some brightness to it. Like, I feel like that's a pretty bright bubblegum pink, but I'm also seeing a very clear flip. I'm seeing like an orange to it, maybe like a yellow and an orange. So I feel like this is going to be a really shifty color. I am curious to see how this is going to compare to Palace, which is like my favorite light pink Clionadh shade of my dreams. But I feel like this is a more sparkly shade. I am concerned about the level of fallout though, because having all that sparkle under my eyes just from applying this one shade, that's not usually something that I find from Clionadh. I feel like Clionadh shades are usually a little bit kind of like more refined, and they'll be sparkly, they'll have some textural pickup, but they won't flake off like this. So that is something to note, and I'm going to have to remember that next time I use this to go on a little bit more gently with it. This next one's more of a coral. This is called Scroll, and this one is an electric multichrome, which I'm pretty sure I've had very good luck with in the past. And I can tell from touching it that it feels a little bit softer than the last one did, not quite as flaky. That looks really pretty though. Yeah. See, like all that sparkle in the eye and no fallout underneath, or barely any, if anything. A couple sparkle flecks are okay. I really like this color though. It feels like a seashell color, or it just reminds me of seashells. Looks beachy. And this, I'm seeing a very clear golden flip to as well. I really like both of these. I feel like both of these feel kind of surprising for a Halloween collection. Like, I don't know if I said this already yet, but it's interesting how the nail polishes they launched in this collection were so Halloween themed, and then the eyeshadows were just like, here's 9 eyeshadows. I'm totally down with that. Just a funny observation. These look bright, sparkly, and beautiful in the other lighting, and especially Entropy, the light pink one, looks so shifty. Even the fallout on my face is shifting. Okay, next up is one that I'm really excited about, and I feel like when I was seeing on Instagram all of the creators that received it in PR get it, it looked like a lot of them were favoring this shade. This is Amalgam. It's also a dimensional light multichrome, and it reminds me of like carving. Like, I feel like the original Clionadh stained glass collection had a bunch of these kind of like bright but also grungy shades, and this kind of feels like a return to that. I'm curious if this is going to be as fallouty, I made up that word, because that light pink was also a dimensional light, and that one was fallouty. Oh, this is so pretty. Okay, I think the under the eye survived that. This is so pretty. Some may call this a teal, but for me it kind of feels like it fits into an interesting neutral because it has a very neutral base to it. In fact, it kind of looks like a warm brown in the base, and I feel like some champagne sparkle in the shift. And you know, I feel like with some colorful shades, it will feel like it clashes with my outfit at times, but a shade like this would go with any outfit. And this is so pretty. I can't wait to wear this one. It's so pretty that I just don't have that much to say about it. The next one looks like the grungiest of the bunch. Like, I feel like the 9 from the last release of 9 were all, or like a lot of them were pretty grungy. And in this launch, just this one. This one's called Synthesis, and this is also a dimensional light multichrome. So I feel like they're really favoring the dimensional lights in this drop. I'm curious how green this is gonna look. I feel like on camera, it's coming up pretty like gray, but it also looks like a pretty bright apple green in the base. Oh. I love shades that like I put down my eye and I can already see the shift without moving, without doing anything. Oh, this is really pretty. Yeah, I feel like this is a really special shade. It kind of feels like one of the multicolored sparkle shades because, I mean, look at that. Like, there's clear, warm, and cool sparkles as well as neutral sparkles that just looks like an absolute party. And then the shift that you're seeing here, where the light is hitting my eye, is like a bright lime green with a lot of yellow. Ooh, I really like this. And I'm seeing a darker green where it's out of the light. This is such an interesting shade. I feel like shades like this, for me, can kind of go one or two ways. Like, they can be interesting, weird shades that I gravitate towards, or they can kind of feel a little bit too grayed out, and then I don't tend to reach for that. But this one in particular just feels so interesting that I feel like it's going to be one of my favorite kind of like grungier shades from Clionadh. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. And also, we do have some fallout, but that's really special. I don't have anything else like this. These two are so good. I feel like Amalgam is so like wet look shine, and the base of it's kind of looking a little bit more mauvey, and the sparkle on top is so bright. I love it. And then Synthesis is just an absolute party in the eye. Multicolored sparkles, that yellow shift, I love it. This next one, that looks so pretty. This is called Baroness, and this one is a glitter vibrant multichrome, which I also feel like I've had some very positive interactions with this formula. It looks like such a bright, almost neon, kind of like Barbie bubblegum pink. I just feel like I'm saying all the buzzwords, but it looks like all of that to me. So pretty. I almost feel like this one went on a little bit more sheer, but in a way that might make it a little bit more wearable, a little bit more like meldable and changeable depending on the mats that you have on with it. This one also, I can very clearly see the golden shift to it. I like this. Looking at it on my eye, I feel like it feels a little bit less special to me because I feel like I have other shades like this, maybe from Luxie, but of course Luxie's not around anymore. So this is a great option. Maybe even from Divina, I might have a shade or two that this reminds me of. The formula's very sparkly, very pretty, but yeah, I don't think this is going to be my favorite one from the collection. And speaking of not my favorite one, I think I mentioned before how this is called Liquidus. I did not know that. I feel like I've never seen that word before. This is also a dimensional multichrome, and yeah, this is a shade that's generally kind of too dark for me to be excited about, but you can see that like, ooh, that like fuchsia to it, and I'm really interested in how this is gonna look on my eye. Pretty. Yeah, I don't think you're seeing the shift on my finger in the camera as much as I can see it in person. Huh. Okay. I don't love it, and that's fine. I didn't think that this would be a shade for me. I just had a little bit of hope when I saw that pink to it, and I do like the pink to it, but it feels like such a dark purple, and where it's out of the light, it feels like nearly black. And I'm also curious how it's going to compare to Tiara, which was the darkest one from the last bunch of 9. I'm sure it's not spot on, but me, someone who doesn't reach for this dark of shades, my like window for when a shade is similar is much larger when it's a shade that I never gravitate to. And if it's like my favorite shade, then I'll be like, oh no, it has this like minute difference, so it's clearly different. You know what I mean? Like if you never wear red lipsticks, you're probably satisfied with a couple. And if you always wear nude lipsticks, you might want a bunch of different little variations. So yeah, this one's fine. It does have sparkle to it, but I also feel like from farther away, the sparkle's not as visible as it is with like this shade, for example. And maybe that's just because it doesn't have the same lightness to it. It's not like picking up the light. Yeah, I don't know. This one's definitely my least favorite, but as I said, I could have guessed that. And in the other lighting, I'm just kind of seeing more of the same from these two. Okay, my friends, it is party time. We are on to the final shade. I strategically planned this for the final shade because I want to continue wearing it for the rest of the day. I also put eye primer on my eyes. For all the other swatches, I didn't have anything on my eyes, and I don't feel like the primer helps the shadows look better. I think it just helps it stay on my eyes longer, which is what I want now. So this final shade is called Rex, and this is a glitter vibrant multichrome. I love the shade of bright blue. It has like a very clear pink sparkle to it. I'm curious if this is going to be similar to Sarah, I think that's how you say it, which is a shade that they've had in their collection since they released those 40 new shades in summer of 2022. And I bought it a couple months after that. I swatched it in a video, and the formula on that one was just kind of flat. I liked the color, but the formula just didn't sell it to me, and I ended up decluttering it. So I'm curious if this is going to be kind of like a better, slightly more textural version of that shade. I also think it's possible this will be similar to like the Cosmos from Terra Moons and Paleomon from Divina. Either way, I have pretty high hopes for this one, so Let's see. Don't let me down, Rex. I feel like this one could use a more dramatic name. Okay. Pretty. Pretty. Nice. Okay. Huh. Oh no. Sometimes I just put my finger in the pan, I put my finger to my eye, and I just feel. And I thought this one would feel better. This is something I don't know how to put in words. Let me know if you know what I mean. Just like right when it goes on the eye, you can tell if it just like feels good and high coverage and smooth going on, or if it just feels like, oh, is anything showing up in my eye? Because this feels a little flat. Damn it, Clionadh, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I'm gonna try to layer this up a little bit. And you know, it doesn't mean it's not pretty. All right, let's go on the other eye too. A lot of what I'm doing here is kind of nitpicking shadows because I and maybe you have a lot of them, or if you don't and you're trying to decide which ones to get, there's so many to choose from. But with a shade like this in particular, I know there's similar shades out there that are some of my favorites in my collection. They're some of my favorites of the probably 1,000 indie shadows that I've tried in my time swatching and buying indie shadows. So it does look pretty. It does look pretty, but I'd rather be using Divina Paleomon. But you know, on paper it's doing the things. It does have that blue base. It has that bright, kind of like corally pink sparkle. You can see the shift that's going to yellow. And if it's similar to those shades, it probably will go to green in a more harsh light also. It's fine. I think I just thought it might either bring me something different or just like do it really well. And it's not. But I put the eye primer down and everything, so I am going to continue with making a look around this, and I will be right back and I'll show you how it turned out. And here is the finished look. Okay, it is a different day, which I'm mostly telling you because I have no idea what necklace I was wearing in the other part.
None.
At all.
Oh, and also it matters because usually if I'm just kind of making a look around the last eye swatch, I'll put my transition shade on top. But for this, I started with my transition shade and then put the shimmer on top. And I will say, I remember leaving off feeling pretty kind of like down on Rex. And as I was putting it back on today, I was like, why? It looks beautiful. It looks really sparkly. It has that like nice blue base that I like. And I think even the like hot pink sparkle on top of it might be more apparent than it is in the other shades that I think are similar to it. So we will have to compare those and see. For my lower lash line, I used two Menagerie shades, Cetacean and Ice something. I don't know, they're not available anymore, but like I put on a more sky blue and then I wanted to add a little bit more greeniness to it, so that's what I did. For my inner corner, I used Solarium, which isn't necessarily the color I would normally choose for this type of look, but I think it does look pretty interesting, and I think it does look a little bit more yellow than Fairy Fire does. But again, we will compare those. I can't remember if I had promised that I would do that one on my inner corner or Facet, but I did use Facet in a Patreon look that I just filmed, and it looked so white. So I'm kind of concerned about this one because I like for my inner corners to look sparkly and glowy, but not like stark white on my inner corner. And for my lips, I'm just using my black Finding Ferdinand lip balm. Okay, let's hop right into some comparisons. First up, as I just mentioned, we have Facet. This is their Series 3 iridescent that didn't look that special on the lid, which would be okay with me if I liked it on the inner corner, but I won't like it if it looks straight up white on my inner corner. You'll see if you're a patron and you watched that look that I did, that I ended up trying to cover it up because it just looked so like bright and out of place. This is Celestial from Shine by SD. And off the bat, Celestial looks a lot more pink than the Clionadh one does. I feel like the Clionadh one is more of like a lighter pink iridescent, and the Shine by SD one is more of like a bold bubblegum pink. And then Divina Soleil's is a different type of formula, but it's my favorite pink inner corner shadow because it's so glowy. Yeah, and I think you can see here how much more white the Clionadh one looks. So my relationship with it is subject to change and to grow, and I'll keep trying it, but I feel like I'm gonna stick with these two as my pink inner corners and probably not end up using Facet all that much. Next up is Solarium, which as I said is the one on my inner corners today. So here is Solarium next to Divina Fairy Fire. Definitely a very similar idea to them, but they're actually not spot on. I think this Clionadh one is more yellow. Fairy Fire goes a little bit more orange in there. And Fairy Fire's green sparkle tends to lean a little bit blue. And I feel like the Clionadh one, Solarium, is more of like a green to a champagne, perhaps. But if this isn't like your cup of tea, you definitely don't need both. They kind of act similarly, but I am intrigued to see that they're not exactly the same. I don't really have a lot of dark purples in my collection, but I will compare Liquidus to Tiara, which was the dark purple from their last 9-pan collection. And actually I'm surprised looking at them how blue Tiara is. I just remember this being like a straight up dark purple. So here is Liquidus and Tiara. I definitely prefer the formula of Tiara. That one just felt a little bit softer. And I feel like Liquidus kind of like runs out of steam. They are very different color-wise though. Liquidus, as I said, is like a purple with pink, and Tiara is a much more cool purple. Some might even just call it blue. Here's Clionadh Scroll against Clionadh Trinket. They both live in this similar like light coral place, but Trinket has a very blue shine to it, and Scroll stays a bit warmer. Here's Clionadh Entropy, Clionadh Palace, and Clionadh Blaze. I thought on my eyes that Entropy was very similar to Palace, but I can see now that it's a much more cool-toned pink, and Blaze is also very warm. It's off doing its own thing. Here's Clionadh Baroness, Clionadh Empress, Clionadh Cinder, Divina Electra, and Luxie Bahama Mama. This one's also a lot more cool-toned than the other ones are. Because Baroness is a little bit more sheer, I feel like it would look really pretty layered over Cinder. Clionadh Rex, Divina Paleomon, Terramoon's The Cosmos, Terramoon's Stellar Apotheosis, Touch of Glam Blue Chocolate, Clionadh Diadem. Okay, this is gonna sound nuts, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I really like this shade. Rex isn't spot on for any of them. I would say it's most similar to Stellar Apotheosis and Blue Chocolate, but it's not exactly the same as any of them. Clionadh Amalgam, Clionadh Carving, Shine by SD Tease, Divina Mystic Moon Pie, Glaminatrix Basil. I was very curious to see how it would compare to Carving. And Carving, I don't think of it as being that deep of a shadow, but Amalgam is so much brighter than it. I'd say it's similar to the Shine by SD one, except the Shine by SD one, the sparkles lean a little bit more lavender, and Amalgam's more of a almost tealish blue. It's also similar to Glaminatrix Basil, but Basil's not quite as shiny and it has less of a base to it. I would say all in all, I'm really excited about most of the shadows in here. I'd say the only ones I'm not that excited about right now, Facet, because I'm concerned it's going to be too white in the base. I'm also not excited about Liquidus because the color is not really up my alley, and I also just feel like the formula is not really up to par. It doesn't feel quite as like soft and textured. And then Baroness, we'll see. This one feels a little bit more sheer, and I thought I had a lot of shades that were similar to it, but I saw in the comparisons that the shades I was thinking of are much warmer than this. So there's a chance for redemption, but right now I'm just feeling kind of like, eh. But the other 6, I'm excited to get to know better. I'm excited to try them out, wear them, see what color combos I like with them. I love Clionadh, and it's always so exciting when they add new shadows to their line. And I really hope they continue this like 9-pan release a couple times a year. Let me know if you picked up any shades from this line or which ones you're eyeing the most. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you will give me a thumbs up and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. I also have a Patreon, I'll have a link down below, where I randomly select shadows for a palette and for some looks every month. Either way though, thank you so much for being here. Bye.